Hay que ponerlo en contexto. Dios,
Hola,
las ratas van a estar acá.
gracias. Sí.
Sí, que va a llover.
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo fue el día?
Bien, gracias.
Oh, sí, las chamarras van a estar. Mañana.
Chamaras también. Hay chamaras acá.
Ya te puse en las bolsas, pero Julián se hace cargo mañana de eso.
Ok, pero gracias por
No.
recoger las cosas adentro.
Ya.
Padre, padre, George, padre, ¿ha preparado su torta?
¿Alguien ha traído hijo, verdad? Es para todos.
¿Ha preparado?
No, una mujer, Chris Foreman.
Hombre, sí, le he preparado otra vez.
Sí, pero sí voy a
¿Va a preparar?
hacer otro pastel.
George, ¿me ayudas con la otra caja? Tengo lastimado el brazo. ¿Me ayudas a meter? Ya tengo otra caja rebajada.
Oh, are you going to get to the Friendsgiving?
No, no.
So you're going to follow the signs that go to Manhall through the sanctuary.
Fine.
Have you been there before?
Yes, I just went in the other way.
Yeah,
I've never-
so it's a little bit of a labyrinth, but it's fun. You know, if you like adventure, you follow these signs. Go all the way down through the church, and then there's that door, and you can't miss it. They've got lots of desserts. Speaker is at 8. Hello,
So what,
here for Sacred Ground or for Friendsgiving? Which meeting?
I'm actually here for a gratitude meeting.
It's this way.
Okay.
We'll be there in a minute, less than a minute. So these yellow signs lead you to Manhall, and you will find it. See that yellow hair follow through the church. There you will be. There are a lot of people there. Hi, Beth.
hi, so who's having a Thanksgiving?
It's not a Friendsgiving, it's a gratitude meeting. It's the AA meeting of Tuesday night.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
gratitude meeting.
Uh-huh.
You should go look at it because it's great. A lot of people there.
Yeah, I thought it was on Wednesday though.
There could be another one. I don't know.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Which one? ¿Estos o no? No. Hay pastas.
No.
¿Quieres pastas?
Macarrones y...
Pero hay una. Azul.
Ay, no, todo bien, todo bien.
¿Todo bien? Yeah. A lot, or not today is this one. Gracias y Thanksgiving to you.
Thank
Feliz
you.
día, Acción de Gracias. Or, well, think Mark. Anybody in favor should like that, and who can?
Is that why that is out there?
We had 20, today we gave away 33 turkeys.
Wow. Was there somebody out there or did you make that?
No, we had people who had, signed up for the turkeys.
Oh.
Now, all those scans were just whatever anybody could use or.
Alright, this is an Indian prayer, I thought we would, of Thanksgiving.
Okay.
We could start with that.
Let's do that.
I think it's from the Iroquois.
Okay.
It's been very busy, George has been running around showing people.
I've been
where to
running
go,
around.
and oh my goodness.
Hi, Linda.
Hey, George.
We can barely see you. And you look like you're in heaven.
That's right.
There you go.
I
Oh,
might be, but I'm not sure.
well,
Let me put a light on. Oh,
some people say wherever we are is heaven. Other people say it's hell. So there's Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Great seeing you. Welcome. We are,
Well, thanks for inviting me.
people are gathering. And I am recording on YouTube, if that's okay.
That's fine.
And there are some people who like to see this later. And so I said we could certainly do that. Hey, Kim. There's a lot going on here tonight. We have an AA meeting it meets on Tuesday nights that before Thanksgiving, they've done this gratitude thing.
Hi.
And there must be 100 people in there. And they've got 2 speakers, so there are always people coming in for that. And we did a turkey giveaway today. So it's busy times.
That's good. That's good. It's important to connect with our communities, right?
We are like doing it.
We are doing it.
We are connecting.
And repeat the serenity prayer with all the things we cannot change.
Right, and we are praying for the things that we can, and we're doing it.
I know you are.
So when people get here, I have this prayer of thanks. It's an Iroquois Indian prayer that Beth Gemco handed to me, so we could pray that. But we'll wait a minute until. Are you okay giving us another 5 or so minutes to get settled?
Sure. And how long do you want me to speak?
How long do you want to speak?
Well, I could speak all night, but I don't think anybody wants that.
It would be great if you wanted to give us kind of an update, and then there probably would be questions. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I can do that. I thought I would do kind of an overview of the immigration system and then what's been happening.
I think that would be just great, and especially
Hi,
like
Kim.
the abuses, the challenges, the resistance, all those things. So if you follow
And the victories, there are some wins coming down the pipeline now, which is encouraging.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I would love to take questions because I know people have lots and lots of questions about immigration.
I think they do, and
Parking is, well, you know, it's high and good stories downstairs, so. Yeah, well. Are they
so
bringing
interesting. You
any
think
up
you think
here?
it's downstairs.
Wherever it's in Manhall, wherever it is.
Hopefully it's downstairs. Is that from old? Is that old St. Mark's?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of. It's
It
interesting
was
though,
downstairs,
because it's not downstairs. It's on the same level that we are.
yeah. But
But-
you have to go down a few little. Yeah.
Do you think
Oh,
the
just
church,
from here,
is
you
the
know.
church downstairs? No, I'm just trying to understand. I'm always trying to
Been here all that long, George, so.
I'm always trying to understand.
I was here for the old building.
But people say, you know, who calls it downstairs? Chris Warman. She says, oh, downstairs. But she knew it before.
We did know it before, right?
Okay.
Oh, well, Dan is here. Hooray.
So we have
Hi,
cake over there. Didn't make
Holidays.
It's a gratitude meeting. That's related. to-
Okay.
And they have
Ours
this
is
like huge tray of buffet of
With us, so many people.
and people are just coming in and going there. Yeah. Marcy,
Will
how are you?
drink coffee? Sarah has something to drink. Will the rest of you want coffee? Okay, all right.
You want regular or decaf?
Really? Okay.
Do you want me to make regular?
I
I can
can
go
do
do
it.
that.
I mean,
Okay.
are you opposed to regular?
I'll
drink decaf.
what if I do half and half, compromise?
Sure.
Okay, all right.
No.
No, or,
Oh, no, just black.
yeah.
Wait, you'll have decaf or a mix? You're okay?
will be fine.
Are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Miguel, how are you?
It's okay.
Just in time.
For what?
You
Me? Sure.
are there.
Wait a minute. You could have her back to the street. You don't, you wanna watch this.
Correct.
Mi prima,
I like this. I like
Prima.
this.
Okay?
ella es abogada de mi
No.
prima.
this-
Ah, okay.
you-
Viví en
this is
Roca.
when you
Here,
earmark.
let me warm it up
Dice,
for you.
no ha hecho ningún
There.
pedido.
It's like, hold on.
Digo, ahorita no, pero eso fue ayer. Y al que mandaste la información,
So.
no, va a estar ahí.
Okay.
Sí,
Yeah,
está bien.
tax, or whatever, tax.
Rápido, tres cosas.
Far
Una,
away.
el 22,
Play golf today?
el grupo de
That was 50.
Amanecer.
know, it was doable,
but I just-
Wait, hold on a minute.
No,
Busy
Amanecer Latino, pues sí.
Oh, okay.
Van a tener la posada.
Ralph,
Rafael,
September,
Ra-
October,
Ra-
November.
Rafael
Rafael.
busy as I've been
va a hacer la posada
That's
durante el
tremendous.
fin con nosotros.
Okay, juntos.
Don't figure out why.
Okay.
El sábado, viernes que viene, vamos a tener que hacer una posada para recaudar fondos para la Lupita. Su hermana y yo van a organizar la voluntarios.
Not there, we'll figure it out.
How many scoops of coffee?
One
One?
of the
Cars in the shop.
plastic scoops.
Okay.
Just makes it.
Okay.
Don't forget
Yeah.
the filter, because the filter. Just in case.
And, finally,
Did you find the coffee filter, Marcy?
Hand or something. I forgot to.
Great.
Mechanics.
Yeah.
You got it.
Perfect. And sometimes people like to double.
Right in and then I'll pour right out.
Y
Yeah.
este,
He's got a-
para, let us take care of
We're
it.
doing something. like-
No te-
Hi, Mark.
1,400.
Good to see you. You're on mute, just so you know.
Help.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Let us take care of it.
As long as I can work.
Quería hacer la colecta para el
My
comité
car's
de santuario.
Her car.
Sí, sí, hay una posibilidad. Sí, puedes
pressure's right.
enviarme más.
Mañana te envío la,
Sí, sí.
la,
Okay.
You know,
Es una buena
taking
idea.
into Costco and having checked the tires, I suppose. The tires are fine.
Mark, you went away.
Right there on the way. That happened to Beth. And it turned out one of the sensors was bad. Right, that's what I told. Either go to Costco for air and that's not
Okay.
happening.
You can stay on mute if you want. That's fine. Okay.
They're $60 an hour.
So
Yeah.
Sarah, this is normal behavior for us, is to take time to gather. Sorry about that.
That's no problem.
Probably should have told you that.
I've got nowhere else to be tonight, so
Well, that's a good thing.
But you need to go home. Are you in home now?
Parking is crazy.
Are you in home right now?
We have this friend.
no, I'm at my office.
That's what you're.
It's quieter at my office than at my house.
Great.
And, so they started early and they have all these, like, people bringing dessert. Pretty, I mean, it's great energy in that, right?
Oh, great,
People are.
great, but parking was.
I know, there's no
Well,
parking.
they have- Don't they have 4 AA groups that meet here?
Yeah, but this one is sponsored by the Tuesday one, and they just, for some, I guess they get a lot of friends and other people.
Oh, I know.
Looks like it's something special
Yeah,
tonight.
and tonight's an open,
Yes.
So they have pie.
it's an open
Open
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah, at 8.
Yeah, if we didn't have this tonight, we would have gone to that.
Oh, wonderful.
So if you played it,
They
What,
would-
it's
they
a tough
have-
choice.
It is a tough choice, but.
about 3 weeks ago.
That's good. It's good to have tough choices.
Everything was
We went and heard Rachel Maddow on,
It should have been.
in Chicago on last Friday, and she had, Thomas, Tim Snyder, who wrote On Tyranny and On Freedom.
Yeah.
And they had the council person who started the whistle. He
We played.
was there as a guest speaker, and also the,
November.
parson, the female parson from
Beautiful
the
day.
church in,
Yeah,
Waukegan,
Like the last day.
who's been an activist. I can't remember her name, but,
Green, so.
Does she come to church?
Right?
no,
It was gone.
I don't think she's a,
November eighth.
No,
Would.
no.
but she's
Good?
from Waukegan.
We don't have any.
Must we get a new
Oh,
manager. I
But
heard
they,
too,
so they were
so
both really, really
they
good.
feel true.
I mean, those two as guest speakers, and
Wonderful.
Rachel
You're
was
gonna do
awesome.
what?
Yeah.
They want to.
And it was
All right.
8% other people.
That's that rule.
Okay, are we ready to convene ourselves?
Yeah.
All right. So Dan and Irv and
Andrew.
Marcy.
And the next and when, in the night.
Miguel, Bess?
Pardon me?
All right, welcome, everybody. We are going to begin, and we can kind of become like less focused here in a second, but I did want to get us all focused because we do have people on Zoom. Behind the scenes there, we have, there's Anne and Mark's back there and Linda. There may be a few others on Zoom, and of course, our guest is Sarah. And Sarah, we are so glad you're with us. So everybody should know this is being streamed to YouTube, and I'm going to go back and probably trim it a little bit so that it's at the beginning of the meeting. But for those on YouTube, this is a meeting of the Sacred Ground group of St. Mark's, and today is Tuesday. It's November 25th, and we are going to gather, and we're going to start with a prayer. And this prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving, which was given to me by Beth. Beth, do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it? Okay. Before I begin, any questions or reflections or thoughts? All right, this is a prayer of thanks, and it comes from the Iroquois Indian prayer. We return thanks to our mother, the earth, which sustains us. We return thanks to the rivers and streams which supply us with water. We return thanks to all herbs which furnish medicines for the cure of our diseases. We return thanks to the moon and stars which have given us their light when the sun was gone. We return thanks to the sun that has looked upon the earth with a beneficent eye. Lastly, we return thanks to the Great Spirit, in whom is embodied all goodness, and who directs all things for the good of her children. All right. Amen. We have some more friends coming in. Do you want to help them get to the
Manhole.
manhole? So I think maybe we should start just brief introductions. Just go around and just if you could say your name and then maybe a word. What a word that describes how you're feeling right now. And I'm going to start with Dan. Dan?
My name's Dan. I am serene.
Okay. Irv, thankful.
I'm Beth, and I am, anxious.
Miguel Briones, and I think we have many things to say thank you, Lord. especially with your presence and support.
So I'm George, and I'm feeling a little bit on edge.
I'm Joyce, and I'm always a little bit on edge, but I'm also grateful. Kim Reed, and really ditto, same thing. Thankful in the moment, but on edge.
Mhm.
Carolyn, I had a really fulfilling day, really nicely fulfilling, and, I'm feeling really grateful. And lucky.
I'm Gary, and I think I feel anger and great disappointment.
I'm Marcy, and I am grateful.
Linda, would you like to say something?
How do you feel?
Yes, I'm Linda Borgstrom, and I am sad but hopeful.
Mark, do you want to say a word?
Yeah, I'm Mark, and I'm grateful for this group and for this church that has this wonderful group that will maybe give us all courage.
And Ann is making Thanksgiving preparations. Do you want to say anything, Ann, or not? I unmuted
You know
you.
what? I'm here. Oh, I'm unmuted.
I unmuted you.
Oh, okay. Hi. I'm making pumpkin pies and I'm very grateful, but I'm also very, very, very sad and angry.
Sarah, now we turn our, Lois.
Oh,
So we were just saying our name and a word to kind of maybe identify a feeling that we have.
or 2 or 3 words.
Yeah. People have not held back. I was really clear, just one word, but,
You broke your rule, George.
that's okay.
I'm Lois Sheridan, and I'm grateful for all of the people who've been protecting our immigrant friends. But I'm totally disgusted with the government. Just totally.
So Sarah, we turn to you, and I don't know if you have a word you'd like to share, and then we'll turn it over to you. So why don't you start with a word you might want to share?
Optimistic.
That's cool.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yay.
Well,
Now
so
what?
now I'm feeling grateful for your optimism.
What do you base that on?
So,
Well,
maybe-
we're going to talk about some of that tonight.
Okay.
So Sarah, would you introduce yourself? And then I think what we had decided was Sarah would give it a little bit of an overview of how she sees the world of immigration. And then we'll have questions and answers. And she asked me how much time she should have, and I didn't really give her an answer. So why don't we check in? How long do you think your overview is going to last?
I think 15 minutes.
That sounds great. Why don't you do that, and then we'll go from there.
I'm Sarah Dady, and I'm from Rockford, Illinois. I am an immigration lawyer. I've been practicing immigration law for over 20 years, started under the George W. Bush administration, and I'm still here. I've had the great pleasure to work with Kim Reed with League of Women Voters. As many of you may know, she is the immigration issues specialist for the State League. And she does a wonderful job keeping all of us league members updated with what's happening in immigration and has done that for a very long time.
But I rely on you a lot.
I think you've been doing it longer than I have, Kim.
Well, that's true. I'm older.
Yeah. I was raised Presbyterian. I was educated by Lutherans, and I spend a lot of time with Catholics, Muslims, and Methodists. Consequently, I am now a Unitarian Universalist. But I am heavily biased in favor of Protestants. And I have to tell you guys, the Episcopalian Church is leading the charge on what's happening. I am so in awe of Reverend Sandra Castillo I'm sure
Yep.
you're all familiar with her.
Yeah.
And your bishop, I don't hear a louder voice than hers calling on Christians to stand up, love your neighbor, get out there and take action now. It is so inspiring. So thank you, Episcopalians. We are definitely a better country because of you. And that's one of the reasons I'm very optimistic. Okay, so let's talk about immigration law. How many of you know what our immigration laws are? Raise your hand. Kim, you can raise your hand.
A little. There's so
All
many.
right.
There are so many, right. There are so many laws. How can you know?
Well, we have one basic system, which is from 1965 still. That's the basis of our laws. And I think if the majority of Americans actually understood what our immigration system is and what it is not, this would be a far less controversial issue in the United States. You know, our country, we proudly proclaim ourselves as an immigrant nation, but yet we've had this ambivalent relationship with immigrants. We've spent a lot of time over our 250 plus years trying to decide what an American looks like and excluding people from our country on the basis of their race and religion. So it's really counterintuitive for most of us to learn that our system does discriminate on the basis of national origin, religious beliefs, and color. So if your ancestors came over before the 1920s, basically all they had to do was get off the boat. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, well, my ancestors came over the right way, so everybody should. Yeah, well, it was pretty easy to do it the right way back when most Europeans immigrated to the United States. So in 1965, Congress modernized the immigration system and then hasn't touched it for over 60 years. So if you think about our immigration system like a highway, which it is, it's a system to move people, right? Just like a highway. If you could imagine if I-90 had received no maintenance in 60 years and experienced increased, heavier traffic, how many people, even licensed drivers, would be able to drive down a highway that's received no maintenance in 60 years? That's what our immigration system is. So that's the first thing to understand. The second thing is that system has set up basically 4 lanes to get a green card. And a green card means lawful permanent residency. The green card is for people who have the intent to live and work permanently in the United States. It is a prerequisite for citizenship for a person to first get a green card. And they have to have that green card for a certain number of years before they can apply for naturalization. So here are the 4 lanes that we have. We have family-based immigration, which is limited to immediate relatives of United States citizens. There are unlimited visa numbers, immigrant visa numbers, and an immigrant visa is the same thing as a green card. You just interview for it outside of the United States, but it's permanent residency. Unlimited immigrant visa numbers for immediate relatives of U.S. citizens. Those are spouses of U.S. citizens, unmarried children under the age of 21 of U.S. citizens, and parents of U.S. citizens age 21. Those children have to be 21. So there's no such thing as an anchor baby that can drink alcohol legally. If you are not the immediate relative of a United States citizen, then you have to be the adult son or daughter of a United States citizen, and visa numbers are limited. or you have to be the spouse or the unmarried child under age 21 of a permanent resident, a green card holder, or an adult unmarried son or daughter of a green card holder, or the sibling of a United States citizen. Okay, so for those other categories in family, outside of immediate relatives of US citizens, we limit visa numbers to 226,000 per year. Congress has limited those. That's not tied to any sort of demand for family reunification. It's an arbitrary number that Congress set over 40 years ago, and it has not changed. Consequently, there are far more petitions for those family categories than there are visa numbers available annually. And that's created a backlog. And then we further restrict those 226,000 visa numbers if applicants are from China, Mexico, the Philippines, and India. So those are 4 disfavored countries. Congress has decided that those 4 countries are overrepresented in the United States, so they are disfavored. By limiting the visa numbers, it creates decades-long waits from the time someone files a petition for their family member until the visa number is actually available. So, for example, right now, as a US citizen, if I petition for my adult married daughter from Mexico, their visa numbers available for petitions that were filed in 2001. If I'm filing my petition in 2025, 26 years easy waiting. And the insidious thing about that system is if I have a green card and I want to petition for my 17-year-old daughter from Mexico who's unmarried, I can file a petition today, but by the time the visa number is available, she's going to be over the age of 21, which then means she falls into that adult unmarried daughter category of a permanent resident, and it's going to be another 20 years before she can have her visa interview. If she gets married while she's in line waiting for that visa interview, my petition for her is automatically terminated because permanent residents, there is no lane for adult married sons and daughters of permanent residents. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of people entered the United States in the early 2000s, late 1990s, early 2000s, was for family reunification. Permanent residents brought their families in to wait in line. So that contributed to it, these backlogs. All right, let's say you don't have a qualifying family member who can petition for you. Well, here's another lane, it's employment. Employers can petition for certain employees. They have to get certified by the Department of Labor that there's no US citizen or permanent resident ready or able to do the job. They have to meet some other requirements. But we also limit immigrant visa numbers in the employment category as well. So there are backlogs in those categories. All right, so let's say you don't have a US employer willing to petition for you, or they don't want to sit around and wait 5 or 10 years for you to get a visa number to come and start working. Well, there's the diversity lottery. And Congress set that up to kind of maintain our ethnic balance in the United States. Not all countries are allowed to participate in the diversity lottery. The 4 I mentioned earlier, India, Mexico, the Philippines, and China are not allowed to participate in the diversity lottery because Congress decided we have too many people from those countries. So if you're not from a country that has the diversity lottery, and that is a true lottery, you put your name in the hat. If your name gets pulled out, you get to go for an interview. If you meet certain requirements, you can be issued an immigrant visa and come and live in the United States. So let's say you don't live in one of those countries.
How many of those are there per year?
The diversity lottery,
Yeah.
55,000.
Thank you.
Okay, the fourth and final lane is humanitarian-based green cards, and this would be for people who have been granted asylum inside of the United States, so their application has already been approved. They've proven their case. Or people coming in as refugees. The term refugee has a very specific legal meaning. It means somebody, while outside of the United States, has proven that they have a well-founded fear of persecution or they have been harmed because of their race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion. So they've already been through the process. They've proven their case. They've been approved for resettlement in the United States. They come in as refugees. A year later, they can apply for a green card. Asylum seekers are people who are coming to the United States in order to make an application for asylum here and try and prove their case inside of the United States. If they do get approved, a year later, they can apply for a green card, permanent residency. We also have something else, which I kind of threw into this humanitarian lane. It's called the Special Immigrant Juvenile Visa. And that is for children who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both parents. If they get a guardianship order from a state court judge that states that they have been abused, abandoned, or neglected, and it's in their best interest to remain in the U.S., they can get in line to wait for an immigrant visa number to apply for a green card. And we limit those. So SIJS, Special Immigrant Juvenile Visas, actually fall under the employment category. That's where the visa numbers come from. But there have not been visa numbers available for the last 6 years in that category, which means these kids are kind of in a holding pattern in this gray area before they can actually make an application for a green card inside the United States. Okay, so those are the 4 lanes that we have. If you don't fit into any of those lanes, there is no lane for you to get in. And that's the majority of the world. The majority of the people in this world have no line to get in to apply for a green card. We have some pseudo statuses, something less than permanent residency, like temporary protected status, which is Congress has allowed the Department of Homeland Security to designate countries that are unsafe for its own citizens to return to because the country is war-torn, or there's civil unrest, or there's been a natural disaster. Whatever the reason is, it's not safe for their citizens to return to. So it doesn't matter how their citizens ended up in our country, whether they came in with a tourist visa, a student visa. If they entered without permission, they get temporary protected status for up to 18 months, which is protection from deportation and a work permit. And the Department of Homeland Security gets to redesignate countries. They can go back and say, okay, that country is still not safe for people to go home to. So we're going to extend the designation or redesignate it for another 18 months. Then we have things like parole. And this has nothing to do with criminal. Parole is permission to enter the United States, but it's not real legal status. It allows people to enter for a certain amount of time, and they can get a work permit for the amount of time that their parole is valid for. So people get parole to come in for urgent humanitarian reasons. And most recently, we saw it used under the Biden administration to try and widen a lane. If people had a sponsor in the United States, they could apply for parole in their home countries. And then, of course, if it's granted, they have an interview and all of that. If it's granted, then they could fly in. And Biden did that with Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haiti, to try to thin out the numbers of people fleeing to our southern border, right? Give them another option, at least people who had a sponsor in the United States. And then we have things like DACA. DACA is deferred action for childhood arrivals. If you're familiar with that, it started under Obama and it was actually terminated under the first Trump administration, because what one president creates, another one can destroy. But the Supreme Court said that Trump terminated the wrong way and then told him the right way to terminate it. But he hasn't yet. So DACA still exists. There have been some lawsuits. The last one was resolved this spring. And basically, the federal judge said, okay, DACA can exist, except for DACA holders who live in Texas can no longer apply for a work permit, because Texas sued and said having to give driver's licenses to thousands and thousands of DACA holders in their state costs them too much money. But DACA is not real legal status. DACA itself doesn't lead to anything. It is not a lane. TPS is not a lane to a green card. Parole is not a lane to a green card. Okay, so that's basically what our system is. That's how you can apply. But even when a visa number is available, if you've been in your lane, finally a visa number is available, we have a long list of immigration violations that will disqualify people from getting that visa. People who entered without permission generally cannot apply for a green card inside the US, even if they've been waiting in line for 20 years. They got to go to their home country. And anyone who's been unlawfully present in the United States for more than 1 year, the second they depart, they trigger a 10-year bar. So now they got to stay out for 10 years before they qualify for the visa that they've been waiting 20 years for. People who are convicted of certain crimes are inadmissible. People who have certain drug-related offenses, even if there's no conviction, if they admit to using a drug like cannabis, which is still illegal under federal law. It might be legal in Illinois, but not under federal law. So we have a big long list, and a lot of people have no idea if they have an immigration violation or not until they go in for their interview and the consular officer informs them their visa is refused because they have this violation. Some can be waived, some cannot. All right, but let's say you've been waiting for your visa number. You don't have any violations that disqualify you. You get it. Welcome to the United States of America. Don't unpack, because now we have a whole separate list of deportable offenses for even people that did everything the right way. If they come in, they can end up committing new immigration offenses that make them deportable. Certain criminal convictions within a certain amount of time of having your green card. People who register to vote, even accidentally, are deportable. People who vote, who are not citizens, are deportable. So we've got a whole nother long list. We even have some situations. Here's a good one. Permanent residents who get convicted of possession of less than 30 grams of marijuana are not deportable. But if they leave the United States to go on vacation in another country, when they come back, they are now inadmissible and they can be arrested and taken into detention. A lot of permanent residents don't know that. But now that immigration enforcement is on steroids, I'm sure we've all seen the stories about green card holder detained at airport, married to U.S. citizen. Turns out, at least 3 of the stories that I've read, these permanent residents had very minor marijuana possession charges from decades ago. There's no statute of limitations on immigration offenses. They exist forever. All right, so let's talk about deportation. So immigration law is federal civil law. Okay, we have two kinds of laws in this country, and this is something else Americans are having a real hard time understanding. Two kinds of laws. We have civil laws and we have criminal laws. All right. If you violate a civil law, that is a civil offense, not a crime. Not every law that we have is a crime. If you violate a criminal law, that's a crime. And the difference is really important to understand. If somebody is arrested for a crime, the full due process protections of our glorious Constitution come into play, right? For example, right out of the box, the police officer who's making the arrest has to tell people their rights. Say it with me, everybody. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to you. Everyone knows that, right? The Miranda rights. Well, if you are charged with a civil offense, you still enjoy some due process protections under the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments, but not full due process protections like if it's a criminal offense. For example, speeding violations tend to be civil offenses. How many people here have ever gotten a speeding ticket? Did the officer have to read you your rights before handing you your ticket?
No.
No, because it's a civil offense. If you went to court to fight that ticket, do you get a free lawyer?
No.
Do you have the right to a lawyer? Yes, you can hire a private lawyer, but you don't get a free one, right? If you're going to fight that ticket, do you have the right to a trial by jury?
You can.
No, you do not. You have the right to tell the judge your side of the story. So there's a big difference when it comes to constitutional and due process protections for civil versus criminal. But what we have seen happen in this country over the last 15 years or so is this entanglement of our civil immigration system with the criminal system. So we want to treat immigration violations like they're crimes, but without the full due process protections that come into play when someone's actually charged with a crime. For example, immigration detention. Immigration detention, mandatory detention was created in 1997. It was signed into law by President Clinton. That 1997 law was probably the harshest immigration law that we've ever passed in this country, outside of the Alien Enemies Act. With immigration detention, civil detention is only constitutional if it's not used for punishment, right? Somebody who's being punished, they're being held by the government for punishment. Theoretically, they've enjoyed full due process protections before they've been found guilty, right? All these checks and balances that we have in our justice system under the Constitution. As imperfect as our justice system is, which it is. But at least there was semblance of due process. With immigration detention, it cannot be used as punishment. But it's clear with what we're witnessing in this country at this time, it is being used as punishment. It's being used to pressure people to give up their rights, their right to make an application to stay in the United States in front of an immigration judge. It's being used to frighten the immigrant community. And we are also seeing U.S. citizens being detained, which ICE has no authority over U.S. citizens. They're only federal civil law enforcement. They're not criminal law enforcement. U.S. citizens can never be guilty of an immigration offense because we're citizens. So, deportation. The way it works is the Department of Homeland Security houses Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is divided into two separate departments. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Enforcement and Removal Operations, ICE, ERO. These officers, agents are purely civil law enforcement. They have no criminal jurisdiction whatsoever. The other department under ICE is Homeland Security Investigations, which does have criminal jurisdiction. They tend to investigate crimes like cyber crimes, child sex abuse material crimes, things like that. Also under the Department of Homeland Security, we have Customs and Border Protection. They're in charge of policing our borders, right? They have both civil and criminal law enforcement authority. Most Americans are surprised to hear that the Constitution does not apply at our ports of entry, which is why when you're coming in from travel abroad, CBP can go through your suitcases without your permission. They don't need probable cause. They can just open up your stuff and go through it. They can pull you aside and ask you questions. So what we saw in Chicago when CBP came in to the city of Chicago, these are agents who are not used to working within constitutional constraints, unlike criminal law enforcement officers. You know, FBI criminal, DEA criminal, U.S. Marshals, ATF, and importantly, our state and local police. All criminal law enforcement, all receive extensive training on people's constitutional rights. Doesn't mean they always respect them, but they're better educated than civil law enforcement officers and certainly CBP. So, you know, when CBP came in, it was shocking. But you have to understand, these agents really don't respect people's constitutional rights because in their day-to-day job, they don't have to. The Constitution doesn't apply where they work, typically. So let's say ICE locates somebody that they believe is in violation of our immigration laws. They have their databases. They can see if someone has a deportation order from the past, if they've been stopped at the border in the past, if they are here legally, but they picked up a criminal conviction that makes them deportable, or they overstayed their temporary visa, or their parole is expired, or if they have DACA and no longer qualify for it. ICE makes their list, and then they go out looking for those people to arrest. Once they effect the civil arrest and they don't have to read them their rights, not when they make the arrest, when they take them back to processing at like Broadview, they're supposed to serve them with papers that state that they have the right to see an immigration judge. If they do, not everybody does. But the immigration judge is not an Article 3 federal judge. It's not under our judicial branch. Our immigration courts are administrative law courts that sit under the Department of Justice. So in that courtroom, you have the ICE attorney, who's like the prosecutor, who works for the Department of Homeland Security. And then you have the immigration judge, who is an employee of the Department of Justice. And then you have the non-citizen, who has the right to an attorney, but not a free one. So if they can't afford to hire an attorney, they're there by themselves. And that includes children. There is no public defender's office for immigration court because these are civil violations. So it's not the ICE attorney's job to tell a non-citizen what they're eligible for. It's not the immigration judge's job to tell them what they're eligible for. This whole process is housed under the executive branch. Also, in that 1997 law I mentioned earlier, it really stripped are federal courts of judicial review of immigration decisions. There are very few avenues to get into federal court to have a real federal judge look at a decision that was made by the Department of Justice or the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to immigration. They really only have jurisdiction over constitutional questions like due process of law, and other questions of law. They're not allowed to second guess the executive branch when it comes to immigration decisions. There are some applications people can make to try and stay in the United States in front of an immigration judge. Some people are eligible for immigration bond to get out of detention while they're fighting their deportation case, but not everybody. It depends on the law that is from 1997. People that came in on parole are not eligible for immigration bond. So if their parole expires and ICE detains them, they don't get a bond hearing. People who were caught at the border and then released to wait for their immigration court dates, they can be taken into custody and held in detention without a bond hearing. But people who came in without permission more than 2 years ago, under the law, they have the right to a bond hearing with an immigration judge as long as they don't have certain criminal convictions. This administration decided this summer, the Department of Justice issued a decision saying people that entered without permission, it doesn't matter how long ago they entered, 20 years ago, no longer eligible for a bond hearing. And immigration judges would not entertain any bond motions, which is a complete reversal of decades of interpretation of that statute, which is pretty clear on its face who it applies to and who it doesn't. It was horrific. And I think one of the reasons is this administration just wants to punish people and get them to give up their right to see a judge and give up any applications for relief that they might make. If they're told, yeah, you can fight your case, but you're going to have to fight it in detention for years. You're going to have to stay in detention and then create such inhumane conditions in immigration detention, people just give up and they agree to just be deported. But the good news is that the federal judges, you can actually get into federal court on a habeas corpus petition when the government is so clearly violating a due process right, like the right to a bond hearing, when they are misapplying or misinterpreting the law, you can get in. But of course, you need a lawyer. But that's why we saw a whole bunch of lawyers filing habeas petitions, because we knew our clients are eligible for bond hearing, but they were being denied it. Federal judges agreed. They read what the law is, and they ordered bond hearings. You've seen a whole host of lawsuits coming out of this Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago, where the executive branch has quite clearly been violating their own previous agreements, court agreed to agreements, and violating people's constitutional rights. And overwhelmingly, we're seeing federal district court judges properly apply the law and attempt to hold the executive branch accountable, attempt to rein them in back into rule of law. There's been mixed success with the circuit courts of appeals and definitely not a lot of success with the Supreme Court. So there's still work to do. But today, a federal district court judge in California ordered ICE to start holding bond hearings for people that entered without permission under the plain reading of what that statute is and what it has been for decades. So now we're going to see a whole bunch of people in detention finally get bond hearings and be released and be able to pursue some applications for relief. So that's great news. The warrantless arrests, I think you're all familiar with the case, Castanon Nava. Everyone familiar with that case?
No.
In 2022, ICE was engaging in warrantless arrests in Chicago. So they got sued immediately because just because they're a civil law enforcement agency doesn't mean that they're not confined to limitations set out by our Constitution, like warrantless arrests and seizures, right? And searches. So a lawsuit was filed. ICE came to the table and entered into a consent decree, which is ICE agreed to stop violating people's constitutional rights with these warrantless arrests. And they had to meet certain criteria before they could arrest somebody. ICE agreed to it. Federal judge signed off on it. Trump comes into office again during the time period of this consent decree and promptly begins violating people's rights in exactly the same way that they were doing previously. And now it violated the consent decree that they agreed to. So the federal judge has the authority to extend the consent decree, which the judge did after seeing all the evidence that of ICE's clear violations. And the greatest thing about a consent decree is that it is not a ruling by a judge. It is an agreement between both parties to the lawsuit, which makes it incredibly difficult to appeal, like, for example, to the Supreme Court. So that lawsuit is an extremely powerful protective tool that we've had here in Northern Illinois. And we should be very grateful to the National Immigrant Justice Center, Organized Communities Against Deportation, and the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, and the ACLU to have the foresight to file these protective suits. It's been serving us very well during these very difficult, horrifying times. All right, apart from that, apart from the lawsuits, which generally, overwhelmingly, I should say, have been very successful, at least at the district court level. Now we live in a great state for immigrants. You know, Illinois, we are doing an outstanding job of protecting our state residents. We are light years ahead of California, New York, Massachusetts, Washington, Oregon. We're doing a phenomenal job. And again, I would credit those, especially ICIRR, with having the foresight to get this stuff done. But our legislature earlier this year passed the Safe Schools for All Act, which codified Plyler v. Doe, which is the Supreme Court case that said that children have the right to a public school education regardless of their legal status. Obviously, there's concern that the Supreme Court's going to start overturning precedents like that. What it also did is it mandated that every school district in this state has to have a very strong ICE policy and set out very specific things that have to be in that policy, like don't let ICE in the door unless they have a warrant signed by a judge. Remember, ICE is civil law enforcement. They don't even know how to find a judge, a real judge, because that's not their job. That's criminal law enforcement's job. And then in the veto session, our state legislature passed a similar mandate for ICE policies at all public universities and community colleges, licensed daycare centers. Also initiated legislation to protect hospital patient data from ICE intrusion and review. And then, of course, setting up the Civil Rights Commission, where state residents can report violations of their constitutional rights by federal officers and state and local officers. So, Illinois, we should be proud. We're fighting hard. The resistance is here in Illinois. Now that ICE has left, kind of, ICE is still here doing their job, but CBP has left and went to Charlotte. I was so moved that immediately, just organically, people from Chicago, the rapid response teams, immediately offered to help people in Charlotte and educate them on Know Your Rights and how to organize. So we're seeing this bridge building across the country wherever ICE goes. And that's the other thing that makes me very optimistic. I never would have imagined just the groundswell of support of US citizens standing up and saying, no to federal agents wearing masks, carrying guns, smashing windows, dragging people away, zip tying them in the middle of the night, these military operations. FDR said, courage isn't the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important. And I know we're all afraid. We're all afraid. But that has not stopped us from standing up for each other. And just the sheer number of Americans across this country standing up gives me reason for hope. So that's a basic overview of what's been going on. But at the end of the day, all of this could end tomorrow if Congress would just modernize our immigration system. Congress could put an end to all of these horrors and violations of human rights and constitutional rights today, if they wanted to. They have the power.
Why haven't they in 60 years?
Well, I've drawn one conclusion in my years of practicing, because we need immigrants to grow our economy. Immigrants power our economy. We need a flow of people coming in. Immigrants are the best because they come at prime working age, usually between, 20 and 34. We have not invested a dime in their education or their health care. They come in ready to work and pay taxes. Immigrants certainly pay taxes. They don't qualify for public benefits, especially undocumented immigrants. And in the United States, our most pressing problem is we have declining population growth in our country, which is a bigger problem than people wanting to come here. In fact, there aren't enough people wanting to come here to sustain ourselves as the world's largest economy.
Those are all reasons that Congress would want to modify.
Well, this is what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you treat people well, when you do the right thing, it's to your benefit anyway, right? There's every economic reason to modernize our immigration system. There is every national security reason to modernize our immigration system. There is every humanitarian reason. So at the end of the day, and given what this regime is doing, I think the only reason why we can't get comprehensive immigration reform is it goes back to 1792. What does an American look like? And we have a majority of people in Congress, and we certainly have one in the White House, who believe Americans should be white. And Americans should look white and speak English. So, I mean, there's no good reason to not modernize our immigration system unless you just don't want immigration at all, particularly from certain countries.
Why can't we just open it up to Norway?
Oh, well, Norway does participate in the diversity lottery. We definitely want those Europeans coming over, even though, the look of Europeans is also changing. in our modern world. Quite frankly, Europeans are pretty happy for the most part in their countries.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know, they have health care.
Right.
yeah.
You know, they get way more vacation time than we do.
So I have a question for you. If somebody is detained without a warrant, what is happening to them?
Okay, so once somebody is detained, if they were detained in Illinois or southern Wisconsin, they tend to be moved to Broadview for processing, right? It's just supposed to be serving them with their papers saying you're deportable for these reasons. Um, but as we've seen, Broadview has really become a detention facility, which is we don't allow immigration detention in the state of Illinois. The feds can certainly open a building at their own expense, but we don't allow private contractors to have immigration detention in our county jails. We don't allow it. So they're being held for days at Broadview, which is not designed to hold human beings for days, and certainly not lots of human beings in a very small space. Eventually, they get transported to another detention facility in another state. And ICE is federal, so they can move people wherever they want. Most people are being moved to Indiana, Michigan, Missouri, and Kentucky. But certainly ICE can move them to Texas, Louisiana, wherever they have detention space. We now have more people being held in immigration detention than we ever have before. And over 70% of those people being held have no criminal record, or they have something very minor like driving without a license. So clearly, if the intention is to get the really bad, dangerous people out of our country, this is a miserable failure because that's not who is being detained.
So that individual who has been detained without a warrant, what can they do? And are some of them saying, because of the conditions are so bad, just deport me? Or are some of them able to fight?
It depends. I mean, it depends on that individual's own immigration history. When did they come over? How did they come over? If they have a prior deportation order, like from the past, they have no right to a hearing with an immigration judge. They'll just be deported again. Although with these lawsuits that have been filed, even those with a prior deportation order, one of the judges in Chicago wants those people released as long as they don't pose a danger to the community. They can sign up to become class members of the Castanon Nava lawsuit, and that's through NIJC. The information is on NIJC's website. But people who do have the right to, generally should have the right to a hearing with an immigration judge, should not sign anything that they don't understand. Make sure that they're saying, I want to see the judge. I want to see the judge. And then they should have a lawyer, but a lot of them will not because
So I'm a let's say a female from Mexico, been in this country for 10 years. I don't have any criminal record, but I came in without permission. And there I am in detention. And
are there any one of the 4 lanes? Are they married to a US citizen?
Let's say they're not.
If they don't have a lane to get in, if they don't have US citizen children or permanent resident children, one of the other forms of relief is Convention Against Torture or withholding of removal, which is like asylum. If they can prove that they are going to be targeted for harm because of something they can't change about themselves, or they were targeted for harm, they can get withholding of removal, which is not real legal status, but it means they can't be deported to their home country. But this administration now has started deporting people with withholding of removal or a Convention Against Torture relief to other countries, which we've never seen before, which is why we just deported Cubans, Laotians, and Mexicans to South Sudan. And there are no lawsuits that really, I mean, it's real hard to stop that. The Supreme Court doesn't seem interested in stopping that from happening. So these other forms of relief that might be available no longer are going to guarantee that that person can continue to live in the United States for any amount of time. But each individual needs to have their own individual assessment with an immigration lawyer so they know their situation and they know what they might be eligible for. SIJS. So kids who qualify for SIJS and maybe even have an approved petition, but they're waiting for a visa number. Now the policy of this administration is to make sure that they do not get deferred action. They're still putting them in deportation. And the government is arguing to the immigration judge, a visa number is not going to be available for 6 years. We need to resolve this case, so they just need to be deported.
That commercial that Christie comes on and
No.
says, Gnome, that you can leave now and we'll pay for you to leave, and then you can then apply to come back. Is that like 25 years from now? What are you saying?
You know, ICE lies all the time. This is what I tell people. Don't believe what ICE says. ICE agents now get 8 weeks of training. 8 weeks. You know, I took a semester of immigration law in law school, and that was not enough. You know, 20 years is not enough. But they get 8 weeks of training total, and that includes some constitutional law, some immigration law, but mostly it's about learning how to shoot a gun, even though these are civil law enforcement officers, not criminal, civil law enforcement. They don't learn how to do traffic stops, even though we saw the disastrous results of that in Chicago. But there is no one size fits all. There's no, yep, if you've been here this amount of time, you can absolutely make an application for this. That's not what our law is. You know, you have to either have a lane or be in one of these more gray, not real legal status situations. Here's another example, U visas. U visas are for victims of crimes who cooperate with law enforcement. If they get a signed certification from law enforcement, they can make an application for a U visa. But a U visa takes now 8 to 9 years to get a final decision. Prior to January 20th, people who had pending U visa cases were not a priority for deportation proceedings. Now they are. And the government is arguing, well, a U visa is speculative because they're not going to find out for 7 to 8 years. The Department of Homeland Security is arguing that the Department of Homeland Security's own inefficiency and delays in adjudicating these cases is a basis to just deport these people now. That's what they're arguing in immigration court. And you know what? They're winning. The other thing that's happened is the Department of Justice has hired a whole bunch of military lawyers to become immigration judges. This is kind of a trial run into turning an administrative court into a military court to treat immigrants like they are our enemies. So this is what we're up against.
So after all of this, I'd like to know why you're optimistic, because
Yeah.
you have not made me feel more optimistic.
One, the biggest reason is because of the pushback from regular everyday people who never paid attention before, assume things, they see something wrong and they're standing up. And we're seeing that reflected in the most recent elections across this country. Are we not?
Yes.
And we live in a state that is courageous. And we're leading the charge on this. And we are setting example and inspiring other people and other legislatures across the country to stand up and protect people's rights. And we're doing a great job. I mean, no doubt there are horrors happening. Our job is not even close to being done, not even close. But we have whittled a big old chunk out of this administration. And we just need to keep the pressure on, and we need to keep supporting our neighbors, whether they are immigrants in our community or reasonable, decent human beings that live in other states. We're setting an example here. And it's working. You know, it's not working as fast as we want it to. But, you know, I guess if we had a king or a queen that said, okay, we're not going to do this anymore, it would end very quickly.
I
But
want
we
to go
don't
back
believe in monarchy. We believe in democracy.
to my example of this woman from Mexico, for example, 10 years, maybe 20 years, no criminal record. Let's say she's married, but her spouse also is in the same situation. They may not have kids. I don't know. She's been detained. It's just not good, right? I mean, her outlook is terrible
Unless
because,
she qualifies for a U visa
right,
or withholding of removal or Convention Against Torture, there's nothing she can apply for except for voluntary departure. But she has no way to come back. No way.
Can you tell a little more about the many detained people waiting for December 2nd to able to be know if they're able to pay a bond, you know, and be released? What is about this? Could you tell me a little more?
I think did you hear that about being able to pay a bond?
That's one of the lawsuits that the Seventh Circuit has put a pause on. Right? District Court judge in Chicago said, ICE, you violated the warrantless arrests. You have to release 615 people that you arrested without warrants. I want their names. I want a review. I said, oh, wait, Judge. Some of these people might be dangerous. We need time to screen them out. And then the Department of Homeland Security appealed to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals and said, hey, Seventh Circuit, this district court judge's order is crazy, and they're trying to restrain us from enforcing our constitutional duty to enforce immigration laws, and made all their arguments. And the Seventh Circuit, 3 judges said, yeah, you know what, let's slow this down. This order might be too overbroad, so we're putting a pause on the district court judge's order. And so the parties have to brief, and maybe we'll get another decision on December 2nd. But it might not be the one that people want, because
It was paused. This idea
Yeah.
of releasing people arrested without a warrant, releasing them is on pause.
the order has been paused by the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. This is why lawsuits by themselves are not enough. It's just one tool, right? But what we have and what we are seeing, we're seeing the lawsuits, which now are bearing fruit across the country. But again, they go up to the Circuit Court of Appeals and then the Supreme Court. A lot of them will. Castaneda probably won't. So that's a powerful lawsuit right there. But then we've got all the state legislation happening. But the biggest thing is this groundswell of regular, everyday people wanting to help and actually helping, looking out for their neighbors, blowing whistles, recording ICE. One of the reasons these lawsuits have been so successful and so convincing to district court judges is the overwhelming amount of recorded evidence that regular people just took. Don't underestimate how important it is to record this stuff and to be a witness. I know you want to jump in. I want to jump in and say, hey, ICE, hands off. You can't zip tie that person. Let them go right now. We want a magic word. There is no magic word for ICE. But applying pressure from all of these different angles, including elections.
Right.
So all of it, all of these things together is what is making me optimistic because it's working. It's not going to be just one thing. It's all of these things.
Okay, Kim has a question.
Yeah, so we have a couple, families connected to St. Mark's who are so overcome by fear that they're going to self-deport.
Don't use that word. Nobody has to ask permission to leave the United States of America. People can
If
just
they're
leave.
leaving, okay.
They don't need the government's permission.
Right.
And by the way, if they fill out that app, there's no way they're ever going to get paid.
Yeah, they're not. They're not, I don't believe. But what would you say to them if you were to, are you comfortable?
Sure. I mean, I have plenty of people coming into my office, and I'm finding, sadly, now more than ever, I'm advising people that there may never be a lane for them to get in for legal status. There might not, it's up to Congress. And, they don't have immigration violations in any other country in the world. They do in the United States, but not in Canada or the UK or Australia or France.
So what
And-
happens if you go to one of those countries? I mean, like if I go to Canada, I'm not real, they're not gonna let me officially in.
Canada has a much fairer and more open immigration process than the United States. And the reason is Canada's already made a commitment to triple their population over the next 50 years, and they're going to do it primarily through immigration. It is. There are far wider lanes for people to get in to immigrate to Canada than the United States of America. And our loss is going to be Canada's gain. And we're already seeing it. All these DACA holders who are living in limbo, because if they had a way to apply for a green card, they would have done it already. They don't. All they have is DACA. They're nurses, they're doctors, they're engineers, they are teachers. So many DACA holders are teachers, and they're bilingual.
Right.
These are professionals. Canada. We have a whole bunch of Honduran farmers who lost their land due to hurricanes who want to live in the United States. We have a shortage of farmers in this country, but what are we doing? We're deporting them. That's what we're doing. Canada has a whole bunch of farmland, and they need farmers. It is self-sabotage for the United States of America to not have a modernized immigration system that sets the standard for the rest of the world, as we should, as the original immigrant nation, that is going to meet our economic and security needs for the next 50 years. It's really embarrassing and shameful that Canada is outpacing us on this. And all of the people that we have educated, we're not going to give them a way to apply for a green card. They can go to Canada. And they don't have to feel ashamed of themselves. They don't have to feel like they're criminals because they have a civil offense in the United States.
Right.
Right
Well,
now,
it's-
China is welcoming all the brains. The USA is rejected.
What? I'm sorry.
Yes, China is welcome many brains or students they're rejecting from here.
Right.
What is the consequence going to happen? You know, it's
Yeah, the brain drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is the brain drain. I mean, we're making a huge mistake, I think, but it's tough. It's tough to convince a lot of Americans that if we deport people that they think they don't like, that it's going to hurt them. They all seem to think they're going to get some sort of tangible benefit from deporting brown and black people from this country. Like, no, you're not going to get their house that they paid cash for because they worked 3 jobs and started a business to buy that house. No, you don't get their house. No, you don't get their money. But what you are going to get is less in tax revenues to pay for the public benefits that you depend on.
Right.
I don't know how to communicate that because I'm not a marketer. I don't know. But that's the bottom line. You know, if we thought Social Security was
clean your house and
And remember that, you know, undocumented people make up less than 4% of our population, but we spend 98% of our time talking about them. People who are here legally are also being swept up in deportation proceedings. We have some of the most highly skilled immigrants in the world, and you know what? We depend on them to be doctors. Since we have limited the H-1B program even more, which is how we bring in doctors and nurses, a whole bunch of Americans, especially ones that live in rural areas, aren't going to have access to a doctor, even if they have health insurance. I mean, I don't think a lot of Americans understand how much they depend on immigrants in this country at all levels. And it's going to be a real rude awakening and an unnecessary one.
So I have a question for you, kind of a different topic. So around ICE activity. Not too long ago, I was at a funeral home where most of the people there were probably immigrants, I would say that. 150 people there. Would ICE, I mean, do you see them targeting places like that? I mean, it would have been like a Alibaba's treasure for them to go there. Do you see that happening, or I mean, what could we be facing next in terms of their actions and activities?
So typically what we saw in Chicago with CBP, specifically Customs and Border Protection agents, you know, kind of doing this, show up in these heavily immigrant neighborhoods, but they tend to be there looking for specific people. When ICE comes to Rockford, they come here looking for specific individuals. They have their list because that's their job. Find people with immigration violations. They already have a list of people, but they are happy to talk to anyone who will talk to them. They now have a quota of 3,000 arrests per day, and there simply aren't enough dangerous criminal immigrants in this country to justify 3,000 arrests a day. So they have to pick up anyone that looks like they might be here undocumented. And so that's what we were seeing in Chicago and here in Rockford. What they do when they come to Rockford is they stake out the house where they believe the person they're looking for lives. They park down the block. They wait for the person that they think they're looking for to come out of the house, get in their vehicle, start driving to work, and then they block in the vehicle and then say, "Are you this person?" Twice, it has not been the person they're looking for, but that did not stop them from breaking a window in one incident and dragging the person out who happened to be undocumented. In another incident, they actually let the couple go, even though, I mean, it was clear that was not the person they were looking for. They're clearly racially profiling. And that will continue as long as they have a 3,000 per day arrest number.
But with that type of quota, I would imagine that they're just I mean, just grabbing people like, okay, this person could be undocumented. They're brown skin. I'm gonna just grab them.
Yeah, that's what we saw in Chicago. Yeah,
No, but
absolutely. And that's what we
that has-
saw in Charlotte too.
I would think that's got to keep happening because of their quotas, and so the pressure is not off.
No.
Or are they going to
But
parts of the country?
they lost a whole bunch of their CBP officers, right? Because they all left, but they're supposed to come back this spring. But if CBP is driving by, a large gathering and there are a whole bunch of brown people, if I were them, I would stop and start questioning. That's what they did at that flea market in Chicago.
Laundromat in Joliet, 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning.
But I will tell you this too. One big complaint I'm getting from Latino activists in Rockford is that the Latino community won't show up to a protest or a Know Your Rights in public, but they'll go to one of those big dances or concerts in public. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sarah, what do you know about church can be targeted, especially in these holidays?
Well,
Articles.
there was talk about targeting churches in particular, but churches are private property, right? You know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And we have private spaces.
And you don't even need private. The whole church is a private space if you want it to be, and you can put up the signs that say no ICE access.
We have that. We have 2 signs up.
Yeah. So churches need to do that. And I would recommend, if you don't have them already, you put up security cameras too. So you make sure you record if there's an incident and you save it. Or you assign people to, like you have greeters at church, you have watchers now, people that are going to stand outside with their phone or patrol the parking lot during service. Here in Rockford, we've got a big concert going on, and a group came together and decided that they're going to patrol the whole area while the event's going on. And that's just what we're going to have to do now. And that's okay. I mean, lots of people are willing to do it. And, odds are nothing's going to happen. But if ICE does show up, you're going to be happy that you have patrols out there encountering them. And no one's better at dealing with ICE than old white people. So I would just speak as an old white woman. As an old white woman, bring it, ICE. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you to get the hell out of here. And you can tell by looking at me that I'm not undocumented. And, honestly, speaking only to the white people in the room, white people created this problem.
Yeah.
And so we have a large responsibility in stopping it. And we can, and we are. Look at all of you out here tonight.
Well, Sarah, you have really been amazing to provide all this information, and I think it's a lot to take in. I think that overview was I think some of the terminology and some of the details are that some of us aren't as deep into it, so it's hard, but I think it really helps. I think the part about criminal versus civil is really enlightening, and that's an area to learn more about for us. Are there other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
What happens? The white people created this by giving people who are here illegally jobs and paying them cash. What happened? Like there was in Georgia, I think there was a Purdue chicken plant that they raided, and they found 300 illegal immigrants working there. What happens to Purdue chicken?
That's a great question. To clarify, when I said white people created this problem, it's because white people in Congress made these laws and refused to change them.
Right.
And white people also elected that guy to the White House.
Huh.
This is a white problem. But to your point, very good point, which we don't spend any time talking about. It is not a crime to work unauthorized in the United States. Okay, that is not a crime. One thing Congress did do correctly is say that it is a crime to employ undocumented workers. So it is employers who have the criminal liability for hiring unauthorized workers. But workers, that is not a crime, and they have no criminal liability for working unauthorized. What we are not seeing is during these ICE raids, are employers being arrested and charged with civil penalties, which they can be charged with, or criminal charges, which they 100% can be charged with. You know, right before I started practicing, there was the big raid on the meat processing plant in Postville, Iowa. And that was horrific. You know, they rounded up all the workers, they put them in the cattle rings at the county fairgrounds, at the state fairgrounds. The optics were awful. Everyone was horrified and outraged. Those employers did face both criminal and civil penalties. But after that debacle, you know, the Bush administration laid off the workplace raids. And the last one before now was in 2017 under the Trump administration in Tennessee. And again, the employers were not charged with crimes, although that is the crime.
Right.
So who are the criminals in this situation? Workers or employers?
The
The law
employers,
says the employers.
and they're not getting charged.
That's right.
The Nissan plant, and then Nissan said, okay, we're not gonna
You
build
know,
it.
if people are going to argue the law is the law, the law is the law.
Then, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that it's completely reasonable. And if we wanted to stop, if we really cared about worker exploitation, stopping it and stopping human trafficking, the fastest way to stop worker exploitation and human trafficking is give people a legal way to apply for work visas to the United States that are not tied to employers. You would end human trafficking and worker exploitation almost overnight if people could apply for a work visa to come and work for 5 years or 3 years. Apply at a U.S. embassy, walk in, fill out a form, be fingerprinted. And if those numbers were actually tied to labor market demands, right? Employers wouldn't like that because then workers can unionize if they feel secure with their status. And they can report workplace violations. They feel very secure in protecting their rights if they're here legally and can work for whoever they want.
I have a question. Would it help if we started reaching out to our congressmen, women, and saying, we urge you to look at the immigration law and update it and change it?
100% yes, a million times yes.
So do you have a sense that that is on the Democrats' platform?
No.
It's not.
No, not where it needs to be, in my opinion. This is the difficulty. And if you're watching all of the different groups that are stepping up to resist these immigration raids and violations, you're seeing churches step up, right? You're seeing legal organizations step up in the nonprofit world. You're seeing Latino and immigrant activist groups stepping up. I have only seen one union step up with any of these protests and demonstrations, and that's SEIU, Service Employees International Union, who tend to represent caregivers, hotel workers, typical immigrant jobs. Who's missing here? Building trades is missing. AFSCME is missing from this fight. UAW is missing from this fight. Where are the unions? Well, that 1997 terrible law was signed by President Clinton. It was backed by the Democrats. The Democrats passed that because they viewed immigration as a threat to American jobs. So we're still dealing with that kind of thinking instead of unions thinking, hey, you know, we protect workers' rights, and these workers need to be unionized more than anyone else because they're being exploited. They're not viewing immigrants as their future
They're
union
competition.
members, right? That's not how they view them. They view them as a threat. They're viewing workers as a threat, which makes no sense to me. But so the Democrats are not as inclined to do what needs to be done on immigration, which is a large-scale legalization program, a liberal one, to clear out all those backlogs in immigration court, get people out of detention, set up a real worker visa program where people could just walk in and apply for a worker visa if they meet requirements for a certain number of years. Unions have to get on board with it. I'm not sure that they are. You know, the Republican Party was the last party that actually pushed hard for comprehensive immigration reform back in 2005.
When
right?
was the last amnesty? Was that under George Bush?
Nope, that was under Reagan.
Under Reagan. So
Yeah.
there was an
Long
amnesty.
time ago.
That's back when the Republicans really cared about the economy.
Yeah.
When
that-
you could talk to Republicans about the importance of immigrants to the economy and they understood that. Now they don't. Now that's not where they are anymore. Now they are immigration restrictionists. And sadly, you know, there's some pretty powerful organizations in this country that are sympathetic to that for their own reasons, which I think are misguided, but
Can I
if
ask
we
about
want
that?
it, we're gonna have to push for it.
There was a bill, or there was a bipartisan attempt to reform the immigration laws before the last election. And remember Langford, I think, where's he from, Utah, and somebody.
That wasn't real reform.
Wasn't.
That was, we're gonna give you tons of money for the border if you give us like 2 things that help 2 groups of people.
Oh, all right, never mind.
I mean, it was better than nothing, right? But I mean, here's the thing. Our border is never going to be watertight, right? It's just not. But what we can do is give people a better way to come in, a right way to come in, which makes it easier for CBP and ICE people who shouldn't be here. It makes it much easier, makes their job much easier, and they need a lot less money to do that. But yes, everyone should be calling their congresspeople, but also don't forget about your local elected officials. Your school board members are critically important. Your county board members, your city council members or township trustees. You definitely want to be advocating with every elected official at every level, all the way up to Congress. Because a lot of stuff that happens on the local level, you know, local elected officials have a lot of power over it. we have the Trust Act in Illinois, which draws this bright line between federal civil immigration enforcement and criminal enforcement. And Illinois said, look, we don't have unlimited resources. We want our police to focus on their job, criminal investigation. That's their job. Number one, feds, you have to use your own employees with your own budget to do your own job. You're not going to commandeer our state employees or local employees. The second reason they did that is because they want victims of crimes to trust the police, call the police, and report crimes committed against them, including undocumented or non-citizen victims of crimes. If a victim thinks if they call the police they're going to get deported, they're not going to call the police and report the crime. They're not going to cooperate with the prosecution. That makes all of us less safe. Your chief of police and your sheriffs, in particular, your sheriffs, need to understand that you support a policy that protects the community and makes it safe for everyone, so people who do bad things can be arrested and prosecuted, which will not happen if victims are too afraid to call the police. So we had two very good policy reasons for the Trust Act. A side benefit was to stick it in Trump's eye now, but Governor Ronner, he signed the Trust Act into law. Republicans signed it for two very good policy reasons, fiscal and public safety. But you got police officers out there like, yeah, I want to be an immigration agent. I just want to arrest, these illegals. We got to start thinking this through and helping our elected officials and law enforcement think it through.
Well, that would be refreshing.
Yeah.
So yes, email, call your U.S. reps, your senators, but focus on your local electeds.
Yeah.
Which means our Congress people,
No.
No.
or you mean
Said
our
everyone.
sheriff?
City council, especially your sheriff, your chief
Okay.
of police,
Yeah.
your mayor,
Okay,
county board is really, really important.
Mhm.
yeah.
Our board is good, but the sheriff isn't right
Our
now.
sheriff,
No,
terrible.
we've got a horrible sheriff right now.
Mhm.
We've got,
But now wants to be governor.
we've got to get him out.
Yeah, well, Sarah, we could continue this for another 2 hours.
That's what I told you.
I know. And it's wonderful. We are so grateful for your knowledge, your time, your clarity.
And optimism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your optimism. And I don't know, I think we should give Sarah a round of applause.
I give all of you a round of applause because it's going to take all of us, and it is, and it's working.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and we have things to give thanks for, including optimism that you've given us, and hope, and the hard work we still have to do.
If it's
That's
okay,
right.
please,
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
All right.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Take care.
Love your neighbor.
He knows it's on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Bye.
Bye, Sarah.
Okay.
Hey, Linda. Thanks for
So,
hanging in there.
if people would stay for just a few more minutes, Joyce created a handout for us. And this is going to be on YouTube. I might trim the first part. It's like 10 minutes of doing nothing,
People chit chatting.
gathering.
So we have a schedule for, that's printed, we have a little brochure out in the narthex with the fall schedule for Sacred Ground. And a lot of these spring things were kind of tentative when I did that. And I would really like people to get involved and have some, help with some of these things. So we had decided that in December, we're really going to focus on the being involved with the Feast of the Guadalupe and also the Posadas. And so that's all that on our schedule for December. And in January, we also talked about kind of sponsoring a church-wide MLK Day of Service, MLK Junior Day of Service. And so last year we did Phil's Friends at their location. George would really like us to work on doing cards for the people on our prayer list. So we thought we could have a table where that's a project, but what I was kind of thinking of was it would be nice to have several different projects and people could go from one to another, so we could have some of Phil's Friends cards there that people can do. We can have cards that we make. We did this with our youth group. They did both Phil's Friends cards and cards that they made for our prayer list people. But then, I guess I'd like other ideas if people who would like to help make this happen. And try to encourage more participation from the church at large and coming, and that kids could participate, that, it's a day that people are off school, they're off work. Let's come and acknowledge that.
So just a couple thoughts. My thought is this could be for children and adults.
Right.
So we need to get Gina, our children's ministry director, involved. We could provide nursery care. And I do think, I think Phil's Friends is great, but I also feel like we have things that are for our community that would be great for people to come together to work on. So, for example, our prayer list is very long, and it would be wonderful to have a card of encouragement, and we could do that. But I'm not sure that's enough for the 2 hour. We could have, I think, a somewhat of and maybe Josh O'Shea could help with this, a brief documentary about Martin Luther King.
I was thinking that too.
I mean, I think that there's education that would be good to have about who is this man, what are some of the issues, and to have something that could be brief that everybody could learn about. So there's a day of service, so why would we be making cards? I mean, does it really relate to Martin Luther King Jr.? And then other ideas. I mean, I think the idea of putting together packages for anything is good. But
yeah.
What about there's still families that have been separated in the congregation? What if we did something for the families where the person's been taken away?
Do we have those families? Do we know those families?
we know families who've had a family member detained, right? And could
More
we?
than one, or?
Yeah.
And what if we did a package for the family? Of food or whatever.
A care package, right?
A care package.
Build a care package for a family.
Right.
Yeah,
A day of
we could do
service.
that.
A fundraising too.
We could wrap some presents, or I don't know, I mean, ask people to bring things.
Just
Just an idea, I mean.
Yeah.
Or you could have like a bake sales to raise money to, these families, that's what they need, money.
Any money?
I don't
Bake
know,
sale on that day, yeah, I mean,
maybe, just a thought. It's a nice idea.
Yeah. We are planning one of the posadas in the 28th Saturday. We're gonna fundraising for the family, our family.
28th is.
21st, 28th, it's Saturday, 28th.
20th?
After.
The 20th.
You mean 20, 20?
Just
20.
Yeah.
20th. So Joyce, what you're asking is, is there anybody here who would help, like to
Who
help?
would be on
plan
like a
that?
little subcommittee
We
to
need
help
somebody to
plan
say,
that.
I'll help with that.
You would do that,
Sandy?
Carolyn?
No.
Anybody else?
Going once, going twice.
Yeah, I can help, anything, but we won't be able to.
Is that a start? Joyce.
Okay, that's a start. It's coming up really quickly, you know. Okay. Yeah, it's coming up quickly and so we wanna,
It's 2
we need
months
to
away.
publicize it and,
Month and a half.
and, yeah, it's faster than it seems.
So I think Josh might be able to help us. I do think some kind of short
Yeah, I
video
think so, that would be good, yeah.
would be good.
And we are getting that
We're
TV
getting a
mounted
big screen TV
in
and
Man Hall,
Mhm.
which is gonna be a helpful thing to
Yeah.
watch something like that.
yeah.
Um,
And although we're doing that on Martin Luther King Day, a week later, we're still doing our monthly meeting and Connie Martin, who is the woman who does the pre-Civil War quilts, talk about the secret codes to freedom on the Underground Railroad will be here.
I have a question going back to the celebration of the Guadalupe. So it begins with the procession up at the corner of Main Street and Roosevelt
Mhm.
Road. And we know that when a lot of brown people are gathering together, it's vulnerable. So could we have some white people being part of that? Would any of you commit to walking from that corner to the church starting at 6 o'clock? Could we get some of you to be part of that?
I will commit depending on the weather.
I get it.
I'm old and I don't want to fall.
Well, just to even start and walk part of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to have a
And
ride.
maybe somebody can just drive in the car and all be close to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Or
another
even
option.
just like blocks, people
And-
can
Yeah.
commit to.
I think in the beginning, but if somebody's gathered
Yeah.
to start the
Yeah.
session. it's maybe
Starting
good.
there.
And Marcy and I will do that.
So I have a question. So where do you park your car if you're up at, where does?
So there are a
it
couple
start?
options. One, it's up at the PNC Bank there, the
Oh,
parking
okay.
You're
lot.
not
No,
gonna use
Not
that.
anymore.
Well,
What about bridge communities? I bet
Bridge
they'll let
on the other side of the
Yeah.
street.
That's what I try to tell the people, it's gonna be
bridge communities.
this
will.
community.
So the,
Park behind the LP.
right, so it's at the corner of
Nobody's there.
Roosevelt and Main Street at the, west, at the northwest corner there, where Bridge Communities is.
Right.
So that's, because the other side, PNC was, they called the police last year.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But maybe I could go talk to the branch manager and see if they're okay. And then they'll know.
Because the bridge communities has a bigger parking lot.
Okay.
But you
So,
have-
so one option is to park there, and then you have two people, you might have two cars where you have somebody park here, and you drive up there, and then after the service, we have, like, we've had a shuttle, people driving back and forth. So you park here, and then somebody shuttles you up there.
The one.
There's some people who've been patrolling the 1 o'clock service who have already expressed that they would be interested
In that procession?
helping with that.
So I think it would be great to have a white presence there.
Wearing
very
those
powerful.
vests, like the yellow vest or that, like, well, like they do for protests and rallies, you have like the, what do you call them? The,
Safety vest.
yeah, exactly. So,
Mhm.
And if you haven't gone to this before, it's really great. So,
So
it is fun. It is
So,
fun.
music.
what we need to
Yeah.
do is probably get a sign up list of people. But if we have people here, we'll do it. That helps.
I think it would be very helpful to really talk about it, like, starting now at services.
I
Really
agree.
Talk a lot about what it's like, and
And why it's.
I've never done it, so.
Why it's important, also why it's important to the Latino community, why this celebration is so important, and how we can support the community by being part of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And have a good time.
Mhm.
Convivial.
Tamales.
Great
There's
food,
going to be tamales.
great food, great dancing. I mean, just so many.
And we have
Wonderful.
mariachi band.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really good opportunity to have a multicultural celebration.
Right.
It always has been, it's just that, but it's not a celebration that white people know about, so they don't go.
Well, and show
And we
support.
have promoted it and talked about it a lot over the
Show
years.
support, like Sarah was talking about, an opportunity to really come and show that we care.
Well, and I think that's what needs to be talked about. I think we advertise about it in the bulletin and stuff, but talking about this is a way that you can really support.
Well, I think that
our
this year
community
it's even
too.
more important.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't so much about supporting, it was
Just
being a part of
being
it.
part of
This
it,
year,
right.
the emphasis is now show your support for, the non-white part of our country,
Well,
which in our state, what percentage is not white of our population in
Well,
Illinois?
I will tell you this, so I heard a presentation by the superintendent for District 87, so that's the 4 Glenbard high schools, so Glenbard North, Glenbard South, Glenbard West, and Glenbard East. 66% of the kids who go to those schools are not white. Only
Wow.
44%
Wow.
are white.
66%?
Uh-huh.
So,
And
so
75
36%.
75 languages.
Hmm.
Wow.
Different languages.
Wow.
So
That is
amazing.
really,
this is DuPage County.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
is DuPage County.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Well, anyway, thank you. And then did you want to talk about some of the other things? I mean,
Well, I think it would be also, so if we have a little subcommittee working on the day of service, I think it would also be good if we could have a little subcommittee working on the Lenten series. I asked people to, watch some movies and Marcy and Dan watched Separated and thought that you thought that would be a good one to have or not? I thought you did. But yeah, that's the problem is all of them, I've gotten kind of that, response from everybody. And so that's why I'm like it's been hard to pick
Yeah.
films because, let's see, which one did you see, Beth? You saw,
Immigration Nation.
Immigration Nation.
42.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
non-white in Illinois.
and,
I didn't think it was anything new or earth-shattering. I thought it was all stuff that we knew.
do you think that there's stuff to discuss? I mean,
You know,
I
I think I should rewatch it,
yeah.
maybe with a different
There was some
mindset.
political things that happened because of political changes that had to open up my eyes to a lot of stuff that I didn't realize how much of this was politically charged,
Mm-hmm.
like this lady was telling us.
Right, yeah.
That, I don't know if it was open for discussion, but boy, it was an eye opener, you know?
But was it like, could it have been off-putting to certain populations?
Yeah, the people that don't
So-
care.
So I was.
So what
wondering-
population would it be off-putting to? Would they be people who would come to our Lenten series?
Probably not.
and would they already know it?
Probably. The
Isn't
people
there
that would come to
something
the
new?
Lenten
There's
series.
nothing
Nothing new?
there's nothing that's been done since like 2021 that I could find. If other people would like to search, I would like that because
I found that it was kind of like, oh, this is not really current.
right,
Right.
and I just tried to say, I just Googled, have there been any documentaries made with what's been currently going on? And I couldn't find anything. So I mean,
There would be.
but it might be 3 years before
Right.
it's put together. I mean, that's the problem is that the whole process of,
What about a YouTube podcast? Maybe we could look there.
well, is there a committee who would like to work on that? Because I've spent
You spent a lot of
A
time. on
lot of
it, but I have
time.
a thought. I could email the Equal Justice Initiative, which was started by Brian Stevenson. I just
Oh, yeah.
read a book
Right.
by him, Just Mercy.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a film, Just Mercy, too.
Yeah.
It's the same.
But-
What about,
But I guess partly we decided that we were going to look at kind of immigration issues this year. And Just Mercy is really more about prison system and injustices that are done to people of color in
right,
prison, which is fine with me if we want to do that. I think what we were trying to,
focus
when
on
we
what-
started talking about it in summer, we were like, immigration is the big thing. And
Maybe that woman knew something.
so we were
Yeah.
looking.
Maybe she would know, could suggest a film, but I would be happy, I emailed Equal Justice Initiative about something else. I emailed them about the book James, and they got back to me with a really lengthy. So I would be happy to email them and say, our social justice group is looking for a film. It's on immigration and something current.
Right.
Do you have any
Right.
suggestions? They might, or they might say it's not in our wheelhouse.
So what is the group you're going to
It's
communicate with?
called Equal Justice Initiative, and it was started in the eighties by this
Brian
Brian
Stevens.
Stevenson.
Yeah,
And it's in Montgomery.
So can I just ask about this Living Undocumented 2020?
So that's the
Yeah,
one.
6 episodes. And
So that's the one that I have a question mark by, because Elizabeth and Jeff watched it, and they were also kind of so-so. And because they said it was hard to follow because it had the lives of, it's six episodes,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and it's like, which is too much for us to watch all of it, probably.
Right, it's okay if we don't watch all.
But they said that it kind of,
Oh, they
it's hard
intertwine
to
it.
follow. They're kind of intertwined and they're hard to follow. And, they said we could possibly watch the first episode and watch like half of it one week and half of it the next week.
I haven't seen some films, but putting in the present context, people they don't understand, maybe some history that what is being having immigration, when you say like and Sarah mentioned already, like what is being invisible, what is being living in the shadows. Listen from even testimonials from the community, from members of the community. I know that it's hard for them to show what is coming out, exposed, even. But we can find a way, but I think it's a good way to learning a real thing in the present time, because living immigrants before this and after this is something really different.
But you have,
Like-
you have something specific though,
Yes.
that's the problem is, I mean, I like the idea, but it's.
Do you mean like interviewing people, Miguel? Like if we were to interview them and like,
Probably to hear, testimonies from people, what does that mean?
right,
I understand many people come here because they are in need in his countries, and they looking for opportunities in here. But in the past was different than now, and things like that, giving you there where we are, and a better vision to what we can do in the future.
I think that's a lot of what Living Undocumented does.
It's so complex.
It says it follows 8 undocumented immigrant families and explores the challenges they face due to immigration policies. It was produced by Selena Gomez,
Mhm.
and it came out in 2019.
that seems so old, doesn't it?
It is, and yet I don't think most of us realize what the reality is on a day-to-day basis of living undocumented.
Yeah.
So whether
Right.
it's 2019 or 2026,
So I'm just,
Mhm.
yeah,
I do
I'm
think-
just worried about our time here,
Yeah.
So maybe, you're going to take a look at some other options, but I would say, ultimately we just choose Living Undocumented, because it's 6 episodes, we watch one for the evening and then just discuss it. It may not be perfect, but I
Okay.
would say, we gotta just choose something, unless something else really comes along. I think interviewing people, like Miguel is saying, is hard. That's gonna be a lot of work, and I don't think we have the ability. I like the idea. If you can think of somebody who'd want to come and tell their story, that would be awesome. But if you know somebody, let us know.
What I think, and you can start asking some people to share his personal story. They don't need to show his face, just to listen.
Well, I'm thinking maybe they could come and
Yeah,
talk to the
something
group.
like that, but I think that we need to hear something real from the community.
Yeah, I
that-
think that would be
We
impactful.
did that with,
would.
youth, like junior high kids back in like 2013, 2014, where we had parishioners come and share their stories. Like, I think Angeles did,
Yeah.
Juanita did, a friend of Juanita's, and it made a huge impact on
I
people.
mean, maybe Juanita would come and tell her story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, there,
maybe Laura, you know,
Yeah. Well,
Laura
the
Lopez.
good news is that some of those immigrants now, they are
there's,
residents and also citizens. This good,
They're
this
safe.
thing.
they're
the same.
safe.
I think Irma might want to talk about her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Joyce,
Yeah, because
so-
everyone is
Yeah.
different
You only
story.
want Hispanic or movies?
Pardon me?
You only want movies of immigration of Hispanics?
No.
No.
Mhm.
Oh, I found a whole bunch on ChatGPT,
All right. Well,
25.
You wanna send them
Okay.
to?
well, capture that and send that over
Send it
to
to.
Joyce so we
Okay.
can take a look.
We have years and years of
Right.
Linton opportunities.
But part of it would be for you to then do the next deep dive, Dan, and actually look at some of those clips, see what you think of
Right.
those. And then let Joyce know if I'm,
Right, I think that's probably, let me do a little
otherwise
more work.
you're just piling up work for you.
But it,
I'll.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know.
it works
Do you
well,
still
like
want
with the
me
soup
to
and stuff.
email EJ?
Lois is gonna be driving her crock pot around. I had my car detailed. I will not put anything inside my
So
car.
Afito, who's been coming to our 10:30 service
Mhm.
up in West Africa, and she left as a teenager. So she could talk about that whole
Yeah.
transition
Mhm.
from being, two cultures and kind of neither fish nor fowl.
Yeah.
We have a couple here who have talked about, I don't remember their names, we see them at church every Sunday. A couple that has refugees staying with them for a while.
Oh, the show.
So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Jane and John, yeah.
Mhm.
Jane and John, okay.
Asylum seekers.
They
Oh,
may
yeah.
they may be able to provide us with some people that could
Mhm.
talk about that experience.
Yeah.
And they've done, an adult a couple adult formations.
They have, yeah,
They have.
I think one of them, yeah.
Do you want to go over anything else on this?
Well, I would really like it if somebody could, like, look at this with me, and, I don't like being the decision maker for a group. And, I'm trying to put together some possibilities, but then, and I've sent an email or two where I've asked for suggestions, but I haven't heard, and so if you feel like this is great, then fine, but if you
We need
have
the
any
next
You know
meeting.
who I'm looking at, Lois will help you.
Yeah. Joyce, we need the next meeting.
It's
The next meeting is January 27th,
So,
and at that meeting, we have a presenter, so we're not gonna have a whole lot of time, just like tonight, every minute,
15 minutes.
every minute she was
That was just the
speaking.
first part.
Right.
But she spoke
Yeah.
for 45 minutes when she said 15.
Right.
And I loved every minute of it.
It's wonderful.
But it was 45 minutes, so it didn't give us. And then we
I
had
think we have a
questions.
good plan here, though. Joyce,
We've got the
That
skeleton.
would be
of-
lovely.
Can we do it next week?
Sure, I don't wanna do it this week. No. Next week,
But
the week after.
what is the,
sometime
everything
before
here
December.
looks, it's a great plan. Do you see any kind of area where you're uncertain about? Because we've got field trips, we've got different speakers, it's a good plan.
I'd like people to look at the field trips and see how you feel about those. If you want any presenters that, this year, we've been kind of presenter heavy at the beginning of the year, and then we don't have presenters later. sometimes I like it when we just have a meeting where we can talk like we're doing now, but it's late.
So we need to build that in, like.
Yeah.
We do. So then we could like a planning meeting, what, March?
What?
Your grandbaby just,
Oh, March 19th.
So
we'll take you up the.
the one thing I'm concerned about is the field trip on April 18th. Who, raise your hand if you would go on that field trip. So I'm just doing Saturday, April 18th is a field trip.
Where is it?
It's
says
in
Chicago
the city
Latino
of
Film
Chicago. It's a Latino Film Festival, and I'm not sure the exact location.
Mhm.
And they don't have their schedule up yet.
Right.
They're taking,
So I guess my question, to take a temperature, is that an interesting thing for this group? Because if it's not,
And
Yeah.
if it's all just in the English or Spanish.
I'm sure it'd be subtitles.
Yeah.
Huh?
The
Subtitles.
book, Subtitles,
Yeah.
read the movie,
Yeah.
listen to the book.
of all the things, because we are going to have a meeting in April.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a meeting in May, so those are talking meetings. The field trip could get dropped if people don't want to do that.
right.
Because we have things in March, the field trip to the Healing Gardens, I think that's a great thing because Tammy as Minuti can come and talk about it. The Juneteenth is a really established thing, and then we've got another talking meeting. So I think the program looks good. The one I'm just not sure about is the field trip.
We do have a conflict for that day,
For
for
the
the
April.
And could you just put on there, like, we could include it in there, but then put in parentheses, you know, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Okay.
And that way you
Yeah.
don't feel
Put
so
the date in.
burdened by
Yeah.
it, you know, we have the flexibility
Well,
around it.
Well, last year, the week of the Latino Film Festival, when it was almost over, Edna gave me something from the paper about it, and she's like,
Again.
you should do this, and I'm like,
Well, you're always
That's
gonna
kinda
get
late.
that, you're always.
yeah.
And all you say is thank you very much.
I did, but then I'm like, well, I think that's a cool idea, and so that's why I put it on the schedule for this year.
It's not a big one this year.
What's the cool idea on this?
The Latino Film
Oh,
Festival.
it's so appropriate.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing, it's going on between the 16th and the 27th, and you can go anytime, you can look at their schedule, but I just picked a date.
And can we pass around like a sign up at that January meeting for the, you know, signing up for soup and you know, what to bring?
Yeah,
bring
right,
them.
that's right, we need to find it.
Yeah, we'll bring soup.
So I'm gonna end the
I got it,
YouTube.
I gotta go.
I'm gonna make soup and make,
My brain is not functioning.
make, Lois bring me.
I'm just gonna bring a gallon of soup from Rustic Road
Wait a minute.
in sealed containers.